day one, they should remember this assessment. Many of you who are not present on day one, they kindly have a look on the assessment of HIC2. So total we have got 100 marks. Out of this total, 40 will be for the continuous assessment, like your PPL, seminars, and other things in other blocks. So we'll be having those 40 marks for continuous assessment, and 60 marks will be for the final assessment, end assessment. So about the continuous assessment, there are how many marks?
40.
40. Out of this 40 marks, how many marks are for attendance?
4.
So you have to understand that. Tomorrow there should be no complaints that we were not being told. I not talk about anatomy.
No, I mean,
HIC. The concern with HIC. Assessment, because few were not available on that day. So the field, once you go to the field visits for the PHCs, to understand there are also marks for that. 4 marks. Then there is a midterm. Midterm means an exam in the middle of your course. Like you have the end of block, end of year exam. So in the end of year exam, there is one more that's called as midterm. We are talking about HIC. There are lectures which are in HIC. There are lectures which are common to HIC and community. So that will also be included. So HIC lectures, that means HIC lectures. So whatever is HIC lecture, it will be taken. Whether it is common with community or it is exclusive HIC. All of them will come. There should be no confusion. For example, let me first finish. Then you will be doing some research here. And in the synopsis presentation, you will have to present a synopsis. It will comprise 12 marks. And then we evaluate your, please, no talking when if you are not interested, you can go out and have this outside. And then synopsis evaluation, 12 marks for that.
Excuse me, what is the difference between the last 2 ones, presentation and evaluation? Are they together or what?
No, the presentation means when you present it.
Without the presentation, after the presentation?
In the presentation, like undergraduate research presentation, like last year.
Okay.
When you present, there are judges in front of you, evaluators.
Yes.
They evaluate how you present it.
So,
Yeah, this year.
You just present your proposal.
Yeah, you have to present it.
so
Only proposal.
Propose, yeah, obviously. Then you will have to submit a hard copy, written copy to the department.
yes.
This copy will go to other evaluators. They will also evaluate how much, whether you have written well or not. So they will grade you or rate you on that.
Okay.
So that's why we have to mark. No, it's not any topic. When we reach the point of research, we'll talk about that. Not this time. So you are telling me that there are some lectures which are common. Like this. For example, we are in the endocrine block. Endocrine block, this will, all of this, only 2 lectures. They are only for HIC. So they will not be asked in the block. All of these will be asked in the block. These 2 will not be asked. But in HIC, all of them will be in HIC. Is that clear? There is nothing like community and this one. To be clear, once for all.
In HIC exam, all of them, HIC and community,
What's written here? So what do you think? It should not come?
just community.
It should come. If there is only community, then it will not come.
I see.
If it's community and HIC, it will come. If it's HIC, it will come. So, because many of you are not present on day one, so you'll be losing marks like anything. So we'll be talking about maternal and child health today. You will see that we are mixing the 2 things, maternal and child. Why we want to talk or address the issues together? Why not separately, maternal health, child health? Why maternal and child health?
Because
Any idea?
the child is always with his mother.
No talking. If anybody is talking, you go outside. There's no space for that. Yes.
And sometimes, and also the health of the child. Sometimes when he is in early age, when his mother feed him, his health depends on his mother's health.
So we have answers like why we club them together. One of the comments are coming that the fetus, which is inside the mother's womb, any disease which affects mother can affect the child.
And also
the
after
fetus.
birth. And also after birth, when she feeds him.
Some drugs which can be toxic to the mother can also have effect on the fetus. Okay. Infection, they can have also effect on. The second thing is that during the first 6 months of exclusion, you want to talk to me?
Two stages. First stage of pregnancy, what I said, and the second stage about when he birth, he can't live without his mother.
That means the baby will depend on, for development, on the mother. So if the mother is healthy, the child is healthy. Okay, anything more? Anything more? Anybody wants to add more? Any other thing? Also the psychological development of the child depends on the availability or the better health of the mother. If the mother is sick, the child will not grow to that extent. It will not be psychologically a well child as compared to those who are healthy mothers who take care of their kids. So firstly, we take them as one unit, not separate. The reasons are, as you said, during the antenatal period, there are different periods. One is called as antenatal period. Antenatal period is a period when the baby, that is the fetus, is in the womb before delivery. Before delivery, that we call, the period is called as antenatal period. From conception to a period before delivery is called the antenatal period. Then the baby is born, the process, that's called intranatal period. Then the period after that is called as the postnatal period. So we have an antenatal period, you have intranatal period, actual childbirth, then you have postnatal period. The period of development of fetus in mother is around 280 days. So that's the antenatal period when the fetus is in the womb. Then the child health is closely related to the maternal health. If mother is anemic, the child has a low birth weight. If mother has some deficiencies, the child will have some deficiencies. If mother has some diseases which can transfer through placenta, they can affect the fetus as well. So that's why we don't take them separate, take them as a one unit. That's why certain disease and conditions of mother during pregnancy, like syphilis, if mother has syphilis, measles, or any drug intake, it can go into the fetus and can lead to damage, can lead to infections, can lead to different sickle. That's why we take them together, not separate. If you have any problem in understanding, please let me know. If I am going too fast, stop me and tell me. Easy. Will come. We're talking once we'll talk about antenatal, intranatal, they are separate lectures. Okay? This is just giving you an idea first. Then after birth, the child, as you said, it depends upon mother. So if the mother is well fed up, you can breastfeed the child very well, you can take care of the child very well. In the care cycle of the women, there are few occasions when services to the child is not simultaneously called for. For example, if you are giving service, immunization services to the child, few services while you do nothing for the mother. There are few services, not. But the majority of the services, they are for common, they are for both. The mother is also the first teacher. Mother is also the first teacher, means that the development, the psychosocial development and other development depends on the mother's health. But once we talk about this maternal and child health, it has basically different parts. You see, different parts. We'll be talking the different areas like maternal health, child health, family planning. We have had a lecture in that. School health. In third year, we'll be going to schools. Handicapped children who are handicapped, we have a special program for them. Adolescents, and health aspects of those children who have special needs. So that's why the maternal and child health, it refers to the promotive, preventive. Because there are two, that's why we call health care. We don't call as a medical care, the health care. So health care you give to people who are healthy as well as those people who are ill. While as the medical care is given only to the people who are okay. So we say promotive, preventive. So these are those services which are given to those who are healthy. Curative, who have the disease, and rehabilitative health care for mothers and children. That's a big, vast subject. But what are the specific objectives? Like we have objectives, block objectives, other objectives. The MC has its own objective. So what do we want from these services which are given to mothers and children? What do we want out of that? We want to reduce the maternal death. Now, what is the maternal death? What's the maternal death? Maternal, perinatal, infant, and childhood mortality and morbidity. That means both deaths and disease we want to decrease in the maternal period, perinatal, and infant. So what's maternal? Can you have an idea?
Mother's health.
Mother's health. So that means a female during pregnancy or childbirth up to the age of up to 6 weeks after delivery is called maternal period. So any death that occurs in a woman because of pregnancy, during the antenatal, intranatal, or 6 weeks of the postnatal period, we call that maternal death. So every death of a female is not a maternal death. So you should understand that when we talk about maternal death, we are talking the death as a result of pregnancy, delivery, or postnatal. So that death will be only called as maternal death. So we want to decrease all those things. Promotion of reproductive health, promotion of physical and psychological development of child and adolescent. So these are the basic objectives which you want to achieve. Then you provide, these are the objectives. Then you want to provide services to achieve these objectives. Firstly, we should know that what we want out of this MCHK. What are our objectives? So these are the three. Now we'll be going towards the maternity cycle. That's what was our topic today. But the background is very important to understand. The stages in the cycle are, number first, when does this cycle start? When does this care start? It starts as soon as the fertilization occurs. That means as soon as the mother becomes pregnant, the cells begin. Then there's antenatal period. Okay? Then there's antenatal period during delivery. Then postnatal period. After delivery, up to 6 weeks after delivery. So if today delivery happened, we have whatever cells we give from today up to 6 weeks are called as postnatal period. The cells which you give when the mother is in labor up to childbirth, this is called intranatal. So before that, the services, mother pregnant up to delivery, the service which you give is called as antenatal. Are you getting my point? It's simple or difficult? Simple?
Yes.
We will talk about in coming lectures. But we have to understand these are the periods. Then there is interconceptional period. Means the period where there is no pregnancy. So between one childbirth to the next childbirth, the period without any pregnancy is the interconceptional period. There is no conception. Conception means
Pregnancy.
So free of pregnancy period is called. So we also give care in that. Now what's fertilization? The first period. It takes place, you should know, the fallopian tubes. Fertilized ovum, it reaches the uterus in 8 to 10 days. So as I said that this maternal health care, it has got preconceptional, antenatal care, intranatal care and these are parts. And this preconceptional care, it also includes premarital care. Premarital, you will see what those things mean. So these are different components under this. So what is preconceptional period? So it is a care of a female before conception, before it becomes pregnant. Basically, any female who is born, understand the point, who is born, it is continued care from birth through stages of growth and development of the female and until the time of conception in pregnancy is called as
Conceptional care.
so as to prepare the female for normal childbearing and childbearing. So what are the components? What do we do here? Health promotion and prevention of these health hazards, especially those who are at risk. If any female has any high risk behavior, we try to decrease that or eliminate that risky behavior among the females, because that will affect the child as well as the mother. Regular health apparatus for easy case detection and management and prevention of stools or complications. So if a female has any disease, she should be well treated so that there will be no afterward effects on her, and subsequently it may affect her health in the conception period. That's why we want in the preconception period the mother should be healthy. Health education of young girls, that's also been done. Determinants and requirements of health, family planning, everything is given to those females. Then premarital care for both partners. That means once newly married couple, they can go and plan their pregnancy, have counseling service available. This premarital care is being given. And if you see your portal, Ministry of Health portal, there is one component, you click premarital counseling. So in all PHCs in the kingdom, they are providing you with those premarital counseling. So maternity cycle and antenatal care, that's the topic for the day. So what is this antenatal care? So you'll see that this is the abdomen, that's distended abdomen. So we're talking about a pregnant state. The service which you give. Now, no talking please. Anybody is not interested, you can leave. Don't disturb. Now this antenatal care is the care which is given to the women during
Pregnancy.
and the care which is given during childbirth is called and after that so that's clear. Now what is the aim of this antenatal? What should be the aim? So we want a healthy mother and a healthy baby. So the primary aim of the antenatal care is to achieve the end of pregnancy. How? By a healthy mother and a healthy baby. That's why you want to give services during antenatal care. This care should start as soon as the conception of pregnancy occurs. But most of the time, even the female doesn't know for a couple of months whether she is pregnant or not, unless she missed a cycle or there is nausea at the moment. Isn't there
Yes.
signs of that? So you have to understand that in most of the countries, notification, so whenever there is a pregnant female coming to the PHC, they immediately record that, register that, and they notify it. And once they notify it, for example, in developing countries, there's a portal. So anywhere in that country, if there's a pregnant woman, they register her, put on the portal. Then the services which are to be given to her. So the person at the national level votes whether this female who was registered has received the antenatal checkups or not. If she has not received, their address, age, phone number, everything is written. So the person who is taking care of the services calls the mother why she didn't receive a care, or call goes to the officer in charge of the PHC, that's why this mother is not having, or why the ANC has not been carried out for this mother. That's why it's very important to have those ANCs in place. the objective, as I said, everything has no objective. And in HICU there are many objectives to cover. So the objective is to promote, protect and maintain, simple, the health of the mother during pregnancy. Second important thing is, basic aim is to identify high-risk pregnancies. Because these pregnant ladies, they will go to the PSC. PSC, most of the pregnancies, they are normal, they do not have a normal course, but few do not have a normal course. So the basic purpose of this is to identify those who are having a high risk. So you identify those females who have a high risk, then you arrange for their referral to a higher hospital, higher specialty hospital, a bigger hospital, where the delivery is to be carried out. So that's very important. So the purpose, main purpose is to identify the high risk pregnancies for referral, for a better care. Because what happens? Because if you are high risk, the chance of dying are more. So if you can identify and refer the special care, chance of dying are less. The best thing is in antenatal care is identify those who are at a higher risk. So to foresee complications and prevent them, and because pregnancy for most of the females for the first time pregnant, or even at the second or third time, they will be a little bit anxious, nervous. So that's to be removed. Counseling is to be carried out, and to reduce maternal and infant mortality. Also, during the antenatal checkups, you also teach the mother how she will take care of the newborn infant. So before the baby is being born, you teach the mother the art of care, to sensitize the mother. Now this is the time. If you talk about family planning services or contraceptives, other time than this, they may not listen. But now because they are pregnant, they want to get rid of it quickly, so they are more receptive. They're more receptive about that. Because you are talking about a healthy mother, you are talking about a healthy baby, you'll be talking about the interval between two pregnancies, so they are more receptive. So you will sensitize the mother, this is the proper time, that including the advice that why she should go for taking services for many reasons. And you will also teach her that for 5 years onwards, when the baby will be born, under 5 clinics are there, she should visit along with the baby to the under 5 clinics. So what do you do at the first visit, antenatal care? What do you do? First thing is you go for registration, as I was talking about. You take history, do an examination, general and obstetric examination. You may need to carry out different investigations, and then health education. So these are the things which you do in the antenatal care. These are things actually you want to do. These are the objectives which you want to achieve. Okay? These are the actual things which you do. So if you talk about the registration, as I said, the female should be registered as soon as she becomes pregnant, as soon as she conceives. But that's not always the case. So what we are striving for is that this registration should be done at least in the first trimester, first 12 weeks, as early as possible. If it's not possible, try to register all within 12 weeks. That's the first trimester. That's the first thing. Then you take the history tape. Talk about the history. What are the important things in the history? So you will talk about the age of menarche, cycle duration, amount of fluid, dysmenorrhea, intermenstrual bleeding. Then what do you calculate is that you want to anchor the last menstrual period, when the last menstrual period occurs. Then on that basis you calculate the expected date of delivery. That's right? How do you do that? So once you have this LMP, once she gives you the information of LMP, so what you do, you calculate it as first day of LMP. What was the first day of the last menstrual period? You minus that 3 months, and then add 7 days, and just change the year. You get the EDD, the expected date of delivery, or when she is going to deliver. So once you have the history, in history you ask for the last menstrual period. Okay? So the first day of the last menstrual period, you minus 3 months to that, add 7 days, and change the year. This will give you expected date of delivery. So you can educate her that when she is going to deliver. Example is, if EDD was August 30, 2007, so you will subtract how many months?
3 months.
So August you will subtract, then
September.
July and June. You will go back, minus 3
Yes,
months.
yes, yes.
So June, then you will add,
7 days.
and you will change the month to, change the year to 2000,
And 8.
not 2006, no,
Yeah.
2008. So it will come June 6, 2010,
No, that's not accurate. It's not.
but it gives here it means date of delivery. Examples here. When you are asking the question about the last menstrual period, how will you calculate EDD? So the female said that she has on 30th August 2007. So you have to calculate EDD. So you go 3 months back. So 30th August means you will go to August,
July and
minus July, and minus June. 3 months. But you have to add 6 days. So it will come 7 days. It will come June 7. Because this period is for 30. August is
Yes.
31 days.
Yeah,
31 days. And this 7 is to be changed into,
8.
that's how you calculate the EDD for that case. Then marital history is very important. Years of marriage. Consanguinity means if there is a marriage in the relationships. Cousins and others. That's very important. Why? Because you foresee if there will be any problems in there. That's what is the purpose of ANC. You foresee any complication. You foresee any problems with the mother or baby. Then contraceptive history. If she was taking any contraceptive, whether she has dropped those contraceptives or the pregnancy has occurred while she was having those contraceptives. The antenatal services you give, as per World Health Organization, it tells you to give at least 4 checkups. That is 4 visits. But if you see your Ministry of Health quoted, it tells every month for the first 7 months, then twice during the 7th month, then every week in the last 7th and 8th, then every week in the
Last month.
last month. It's the MOH quota. But here, at least you should give, it's the least, not the maximum. Least you should give how many?
4 visits.
4 visits. First visit, 16 weeks. Second visit, between 24, 28. Third visit, 32. And the fourth visit at 36 weeks. But if you go to the MOH, you will see that how many times the pregnant woman has to visit the primary health care center. So, the present obstetric history, you will be talking about registration and the number of visits. Then the first trimester, what you will ask. Because you are giving care to the mother. Ask about nausea and vomiting if she has, note it down. Other associated symptoms, any abdominal, pelvic or back pain, burning micturition, any discharge, bleeding, use of acid tablets, ultrasound done or not, and tetanus vaccination. These are very important points in the history taking during the first trimester. And in the second trimester, ask about the regular use of folic acids, iron and calcium. Because in this trimester, you start giving them iron and folic acid tablets to prevent them from anemia. It's prevention for anemia. Ultrasound, again you go for an abdominal scan, quickening whether the mother-in-law feels that the baby is moving inside, it's called as quickening. And fever rash or abdominal, any infection of the mother which can go to the baby. So you have to ask about fever rash or abdominal pain. In the third trimester, again you will go for tetanus toxoid vaccination, regular doctor checkups and ultrasound. These are the things which you will ask. Which
When
trimester?
when can we know the sex of the fetus or the?
The point here is, at the 6th week, the heart starts to develop. Most of the congenital anomalies, you will not be able to, the heart will not have been developed. Once you do an ultrasound, you may not find any heart beating or any development of the heart at 6 to 7 weeks. It starts and it increases, the heart rate increases during that period. From 6 to 9 weeks it increases and then it slows down. Okay? So if it's not happening in that period, mostly there is some problem. Mostly the result is of a congenital problem. And then afterwards, in the second trimester, as you said, we can determine the sex of the baby, but you can also do, if you are an expert, during the first trimester as well. Most of the sonologists, they do it in the second trimester. That means fourth trimester. There are no fourth trimester. In fourth trimester, that is more than one trimester. That's what I said. So second trimester. Fourth, fifth, sixth month, the second trimester. Not fourth trimester. There is no delivery here. No pregnancy loss for fourth trimester. 1, 3. Good. And also the personal history, because of nausea and vomiting, female is not able to take. So we talk about appetite, sleep. She should have very sound sleep. Bowel should be normal. Urine output should be normal. So you will have to check and ask about these things. And also important is the weight gain, whether the mother is gaining weight or not. If the mother is not gaining weight, that means there's some problem will be happening to the baby. So the baby is not basically gaining the weight. So you may have IUGR, intrauterine growth retardation. And the history of addiction. If she is a smoker, alcoholism, tobacco chewing, all of them can affect the health of the baby, as well as mother. And history of foods or allergies and dietary history, they are all are important because they affect the mother as well as the baby.
Smoking causes death today.
It doesn't cause birth defect. It causes many problems. Not many problems. Most important problem, it compromises with the blood flow, placental blood flow to the baby. So when it compromises with the placental blood flow, the resultant is a decreased weight of the baby. Now, how we'll go for the actual? That was the general physical examination. Now, we are basically concerned with mostly the abdominal examination, what we do. So, you have to go for head-to-toe examination, breast examination, abdominal palpation. Now, we'll be focusing on the abdominal only. So, these are in the general ones. You will see the signs of pregnancy, assess fetal size, whether it's going or not, assess fetal health, diagnose the location in different parts of the, whether it's in cephalic or caudal direction, where is the back, where is the front portion, where the legs, you can detect it. Now, preliminaries for examination. Every clinical skill exam you are being taught that before performing examination, you have to greet your client or patient. Privacy is to be maintained. You have to explain what the procedure you will be carrying out. Then you have to ask the pregnant female to empty the bladder. Because if the bladder is not empty, then you will get a false frontal height, an impression of an increased size of the abdomen vis-a-vis to the LMP, last menstrual period. You will find that it's abnormally bigger size. Then make her lie down in dorsal position. Knees should be flexed position while doing palpation, so they will be flexed. You have done this examination or not yet? You will be doing in second year. Abdomen should be exposed and the examiner stands on the right side of the mother. So the second part is the inspection and the third part is the palpation. So inspection you will go through it yourself. Now this is a very important part. The examination, abdominal examination of pregnant women. First important thing is warm your hands. They should be warm. Every clinical skills tells you like that. Then centralize uterus, place ulnar border of left hand on the uppermost part of the fundus. So this is your left hand, this is the ulnar border, this is the radial border. So on the female is lying, I'm on the right side. So this ulnar border of my hand, I have to find the upper pole, try to move downwards, find the upper pole of the uterus, because uterus will grow. The baby grows, the uterus will also grow. So you have to check the upper pole of the uterus, of fundus, and measure till symphysis pubis. You will see the distance. By each tape, you will be doing it in your clinical skills examination. Then abdominal girth, you can measure around the level of the umbilical, or the girth of the abdomen. So these are the maneuvers. These are called as Lippert's maneuvers. They are common and systematic way to determine the position of the fetus inside the women's uterus. They are named after the gynecologist Christian Gerhard Leopold. Okay? So these are the maneuvers which we are going to do. This is the first part, fundal palpation. This is the fundal palpation. So this is mother placed, and this is the hands of the doctor, how he is palpating. The uterine fundus is palpated to determine which fetal part occupies the fundus. So we try to find out, we put our hands like this and try to find out which part, whether it is the head on the top or the buttocks are there. So we try to find out which part is in this, in the fundus. Then this lateral palpation. First was fundal palpation. Second is called as lateral palpation. So then from here, you put your hands here. Each side of the maternal abdomen is palpated to determine which side the spine is and which side the extremity is. So we try to find out which side is the spine. It will be very smooth, it will be curved, while the other side will have knobs, because the feet will be flexed, legs will be flexed, and you will feel an irregular area on that side. Spine is smooth, curved, and resistant to feel, whereas limbs are small knobs like irregular parts. So we try to find out which part the spine lies and which part. These are important procedures which you might be carrying out. Not necessarily at a PSC, but even sometimes at your home. Sometimes may our relatives and they may come and you may have to go do it. Even sometimes for your own wife, you may have to go for this maneuver. So you as doctors, you should understand and know these procedures. Then you will say, I don't know because I have not done it. That's how we do it. Then the third position, maneuver. So one hand applies pressure on the fundus. So one hand is on the fundus top, while the index finger and the thumb, they are stretched. Okay, they are stretched. Of the outer hand palpate the presenting part. This is the presenting part. Presenting part means if the delivery occurs, which will be the first part to come out. The presenting part. So you try to find out what is the presenting part. Is it the head or the buttocks? That's what you want, because this will tell you whether the delivery will be smooth or there will be some issues with the delivery. You have to be extra careful. So if it's head, you say it is cephalic and the delivery can occur smoothly. But if for the buttocks and the breech presentation, then you may have necessary arrangements in place, even for the referral in place. The fourth important is the fourth part. The fourth maneuver is that these are the, what ligaments is this? The inguinal ligament. So parallel to the inguinal ligament, you will go downwards. These are the inguinal ligaments go downwards. The area above the symphysis pubis is palpated to locate the fetal presenting part and thus determine how far the fetus has descended, whether it's yet up or it has descended down. So you want to see the engagement. Engagement means whether it's a time for delivery or not. If it's free, that means it has not gone down. If it has gone down, then it will not be free. Then the pregnant lady is in labor. Baby is just trying to come out. The time for delivery. If hands are converging together, indicates no engagement. And if they are diverging, if they are apart, that means engagement has started and it's the time for it. And if there is engagement, that means engagement of the head, you will not be able to connect the two tips of your fingers. When you go down, if you can, then there is no engagement. If you can't, that means the head has gone down, it's engaged. Now what are the, so this was basically the examination, abdominal examination, which is very important for all of you to understand which part is presenting down, what are the fundal height, what are the girth, where lies the different poles, the side, the spine and the other physical parts, and what's the presenting part of. Now as far as these tests are concerned, these are the basic tests which are to be carried out. So once the mother comes, you determine the blood group, to determine blood grouping, to determine the blood group type. Both the husband and the wife are to be checked which type of blood group they have. Why? Check for what? RH incompatibility. Yep. No, we're talking about this blood grouping, not the hemoglobin. Blood group means A, B, A, B or O.
You mean before marriage or
Or
before
RH
delivery?
positivity or negativity.
Doctor, this blood group before marriage or before delivery?
We're talking before delivery.
Okay.
Before delivery, during the antenatal period. We are talking about the antenatal period.
Yeah.
So nothing to be like marriage. Antenatal period, isn't it? So all the day we are talking about antenatal period.
I know.
In the antenatal period, we have to carry out this test. Why? Check for RH incompatibility. If mother is RH negative and the father is RH positive, what will happen? Huh? Immune reactions will happen. So you may have problems with the baby. The baby may be born with jaundice, depending upon which type of is the first issue or the second issue. Okay, first child or second child. Absolutely, absolutely. Not in the first. That's what I'm telling. That even at the first is very important. Sometimes what happens that if there is any problem with the placenta, you have placenta previa, okay, sometimes the blood can go inside and it can leak, but it's very minimum, but you have to take care of that. Then hemogram, how many grams, whether she's anemic or not, you may need a blood transfusion, you may have to arrange for that. Then you have to also screen for syphilis, rubella. If the mother having rubella infection, then it can affect the baby. So you have to check for this. It can lead to syndrome in the baby. Then urine analysis about the renal function test, about the diabetes, about proteins. Then pap smear you may sometimes take. It's not routinely done, but you can take it. Then chlamydial infection and glucose tolerance test. These are other tests you can carry out in a pregnant female. Now this is a very important part as far as the HSC is concerned that we are focusing on is the health education part. The first part you have to understand, this is health education. We'll be talking about diet, we'll be talking about personal hygiene, rest and sleep, then bowel, clothing, dental hygiene and care of breast, coitus, travel, smoking and alcohol. So these are the 10 messages which you should be aware of. All of you as second year students should know that what health education, what are the messages to be given to the pregnant. So what are those? First thing is the diet. So the mother should take same diet or extra diet? Extra diet. Around, if you talk in terms of calories, it should be at least 300 kilocalories extra. And if she is not able to take them because of nausea and vomiting in the first trimester, she can take small amounts frequently to prevent that vomiting. So this is important. Why is it important? To maintain the health of the mother itself and the needs of the growing fetus. That's why you want extra, something extra for the mother. So strength and vitality required during labor and the successful lactation at the time of delivery. So that's why we need to have a very healthy diet. The pregnancy diet, now how this diet should be? It should be light, nutritious, easily digested. It should be rich in proteins, minerals, because these are the things which are needed for the growing fetus. There's an increased demand for that. So increased demand means we have to supply them more. And it's also required fibers are required and calories. Dietary advice should be given with due consideration. Now we can tell any female that you take always Dajjal and other things. We have to see the economic condition of that. Whether she belongs to that socio-economic strata, whether she can afford or not. If she does not afford, cannot afford, then there are other alternatives you have to explore. That she can take pulses, legumes, which are rich. Supplementary iron therapy is needed in all pregnant mothers from 12 weeks onwards. Why? To prevent. We call supplementary iron therapy to prevent anemia in pregnancy. But if you detect there is anemia, then you have to treat the anemia. One is called as prevention of anemia. The other is called as treatment of anemia. So the doses will then differ from prevention to treatment. The personal hygiene. So we should not tell her that, okay, now you are pregnant, so don't have a bath, don't have anything. No, she has daily, all over wash is necessary. So she should go almost every day for a bath, because it is stimulating, it's refreshing and relaxing. The relaxation to have, relieve anxiety, and warm shower or sponge bath better than tub bath. You should understand that. Hot is warm, not hot. Understand two terms. Hot should be avoided because they may cause